Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. This is George Ortega. I'm here to talk about happiness because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all. Okay, tonight we're going to be talking about happiness and its distractions. A lot of times, we're trying to be happy, but we're distracted from that effort, that attempt through, through our activities, through being with people, through different thoughts. Different things that happen sometimes can distract us from feeling as happy as we can. So I think the first thing we want to think about and try to practice in terms of like focusing, tuning in on happiness more is to really make the effort to focus on happiness. A lot of times that means acknowledging that we're happy. I mean, whether we're with friends or whether we're working, whether we're alone, whatever we're doing, we can generally do what we're doing and still think about our happiness and acknowledge it. And we can do this as simply as saying to ourselves, I feel happy, because when we verbalize it, when we express it, and I mean, we don't have to say it verbally if we're with people or even if we're alone. I mean, we just thinking the thoughts, I feel happy, I feel good, things are going well. Just acknowledging the feeling is very important to feeling it and to feeling it more strongly. A lot of times, our feelings come automatically. When, they just come into our minds, we feel them and express them and enjoy them. But we can actually control our thoughts more consciously. We can decide to think about what we want to think about to a certain extent, and that ability is what we should be using to focus on happiness. We can get into the habit of saying to ourselves at different times during the day, I feel great, things are going well. And as we say that more and more, it will become a habit so that over time, we won't even have to think about it or make an effort. We'll just be doing it naturally. And a related idea to this is that, we sometimes will think certain things that may not feel right to us, that may not feel like they're true. Like we might be saying, I feel happy, and maybe we're not feeling as happy as we would be saying or thinking, but we've got to continue to think those thoughts and to have those thoughts come into our minds, because what happens is when we do that, then our mind will actually become convinced of it. There have been studies, for example, related to smiling. People were basically instructed to smile for a certain amount of time, and they weren't necessarily feeling any happier, before the smiling, but the actual smiling caused them to feel happier feelings. The same applies to frowning and other emotions. So just saying to ourselves, I feel really happy, I feel really good, will bring about those feelings to a greater extent. And again, we can choose our thoughts. We can choose our thoughts and we can choose how we evaluate events. For example, let's say we're waiting for a train and it's late. And we could like in that instance concentrate on, well, the idea that, gee, I don't like to wait, or when's the train coming, it's the frustration of it. Or we could just shift our focus to let's say the day. Maybe it's a nice day out, just enjoying the scenery. Or we could think of our friends. We could think of things to do with our friends or our family. Just the idea is just to not let events control our thoughts, because then our thoughts will control our emotion. We have to. We should make an effort to control our thoughts so that regardless of the events that we're experiencing, we can continue to focus on happiness. A lot of times we, as a habit, tend to dwell on problems. and imperfections, and that can really be a distraction to our happiness. We have the habit sometimes of doing that. That's a lot of times that's the way we see things. And again, that's something that really distracts our happiness, and we can work to overcome that. We can pretty much catch ourselves when we're dwelling on the problem, and begin to see the other side of it. Situations have their it's like this glass half full, half empty philosophy. Situations have their positives and the negatives, and that relates to everything. I mean, you could relate it to the world in general. I mean, if you listen to the news each night and read the newspaper, and you can focus on the problems. There's a lot wrong with the world, but there's also a lot right. And with the world as with our own lives, a lot of times we can't really control the way things are. We can't control a lot of world problems as individuals. We can't control a lot of things that happen to us as individuals, but we can control how we perceive them, how we evaluate them. And again, when we don't dwell on problems, then we can focus on happy thoughts and continue to be much happier. Another distraction to our happiness is that sometimes we're just distracted by other things that are going on. We could be working, we could be with our friends, we could be involved in a project, and any kind of activity that we could be doing. A lot of times the problem is that we're so focused on that activity, on perhaps doing it well, or succeeding with it, or just doing it in a certain way, that we forget that that a great part of any activity that we do should be to be happy while doing it. It's the idea is that we can do what we have to do and still be very happy in the process. It's not like we have to choose between one or the other. Sometimes there will be activities that demand a lot of concentration, and sometimes it'll be much harder to feel happier during those times. But in general, what happens is when we notice that our work or activities, whatever we do, can become a distraction from our happiness, we can make the effort during those times to constantly remind ourselves that the activity can be very pleasant, and that we can feel very happy while doing that activity. Okay, I want to go through a list now of various distractors to our happiness and explore how we can overcome them. One of the distractions is the basic unpleasant emotions. In the past I've spoken about 3 of them. There's really 5 actually. There's 6 universal emotions that they're called universal because, like, a person anywhere in the world will see a photograph of somebody expressing that emotion, and they'll know exactly what it is. And so the 6 are like fear, anger, sadness, disgust, surprise, and happiness. And happiness is really the only one that's a positive emotion. The other ones are generally negative, and surprise can be either positive or negative. But these emotions are the real distractions to our happiness. Whenever we are doing something and we're feeling one of these negative emotions, it makes it much more difficult to feel happy. So, like for example with fear, a lot of times we tend to worry. We tend to worry about what might go wrong, and it's a distraction. When we realize, for example, that 90% of our worries never happen, we can really, understand that fear is not just unnecessary, but it's not really useful, or it's just not useful. I mean, it's just not, it's a habit that we've gotten into that's just not, not in our best interest. Anger also, a lot of times we'll react to certain situations with anger, thinking it's the right thing to do, but again, it's creating another distraction. Usually, whatever we have to do, whether it's related to other people or whether it's within ourselves, anger often is a choice. We can choose to not be angry, to do what we have to do, and continue to be focused on our happiness. Sadness is the same. Rather than choosing to feel sad about something that that we might have lost. Sadness is generally a reaction to an irrevocable loss. Rather than lamenting that, rather than just losing our happiness because we've lost something, we can say to ourselves, wait a minute, the thing that really is important is happiness. Generally everything else can contribute to happiness, but nothing else is very essential to happiness. I've said it on a few shows before. The only requirement for happiness is that a person has enough food to eat. One emotion that I want to talk about now that we haven't really, I haven't really addressed so much in previous shows, but the more I think about it, the more I understand that it is a quite pervasive, unpleasant emotion, and therefore a distraction to our happiness. That's the idea of disgust. Okay, that's an emotion, and it developed, I think, a long time ago when, for example, we had to forage for food. We had to taste different foods, different plants that we may never have eaten before to determine whether they're edible or not. And so this sense of what tastes and smells good or not, it was very, very useful to that. And now fortunately we don't have to do that with food, but disgust, I think, refers also to how we view events, whether we like them or not. Disgust is really not liking something. Okay, so, and this can relate to music, to people, to architecture, to anything. I mean, there are so many things that we can we'll perceive them and we'll form a judgment. I like this, I don't like this. One thing, though, is that these likes and dislikes are often in our control. For example, there are a lot of foods that we'll eat, and at first we may not like them. I mean, our parents know this. They used to make us eat vegetables and different foods, knowing that as we would eat them, we would acquire a taste for them and acquire a liking for them. So again, disgust, I think, is a very, very serious distraction to happiness, and I think it's probably an emotion, a negative emotion that we feel maybe as much as the other three. So it is an important emotion to try to overcome. Okay, before going on, I want to do a song now, and it's called The Beauty to Come.
See the beauty of the day, when people coming round your way. The world is coming to a time when everyone is in the rhyme. A single global harmony, paradise community, a wondrous time of peace and love, descending from the sky above. See it coming around for good, life coming as it should. No compromised reality, perfect bliss eternity, a love that reaches everyone in every land under the sun. Happiness that never fades, no matter where or how it's played. See the beauty in the world, glistening just like a pearl. All around you coming through, everything becoming new. A single global harmony, unity, a wondrous time of peace and love, descending from the sky above. See the beauty that will be our everlasting destiny, coming to the world at last, coming strong, coming fast.
Okay, just want to make one note about the songs that I tend to write. Sometimes they sound like very idealistic, very like, you know, as if they're like prophetic or something. They're pretty much art, you know. They're kind of like, you know, a lot of times you'll see like horror movies or you know, catastrophe movies and all, where they, you know, art that depicts, you know, life really being really not so good. Well, you know, sometimes a lot of the songs that I write just take the other stance, just try to depict a life as being as good as it can possibly be. And it's not to say that, you know, like for example, that's not a prophetic song in the sense that, you know, that paradise is coming soon or anything, but it's just a nice experience to go through. Anyhow. All right, so let's see, back to the different distractors that prevent us from being as happy as we can. A very, very important one is desires. You know, what happens is whatever we're doing, a lot of times we want something. You know, we want something to go a certain way. We want people to behave in a certain way. We want success in what we're doing, or it can apply to, in general, we want more money at our jobs, we want a different job, you know, we want more education. There's always like so many things in the world that we can want. And, you know, the problem with wanting is that it creates a situation where there's a distance between us and what we want, and, you know, it's like we're not where, many things in life we just can't get, or at least immediately, and it's a distraction. You know, it really, being in a state of want just creates a constant distraction from being as happy as we can be. So, you know, the idea is that we should minimize our desires. When we remember that food is the only thing we really need for our happiness, then while it might be nice to make more money or to have more friends or to have whatever we want, it might be nice, but if we keep those things a preference rather than a want or desire, then we can stay focused. You know, we won't allow these wants to distract us from really the only thing that we want. Because, I mean, when you think about it, these other wants, these other desires, they're tools or ways that we think will make us happier. The only thing anyone ever wants is happiness. So if we keep that as our only desire, then the rest of the desires that we're sometimes subject to and prone to just won't distract us. Okay, sometimes activities will be distractions. I talked about this a bit earlier. You know, we will be so into our work, doing it rightly, doing it in a certain way, having it succeed, you know, that we'll forget that, that the time we spend working is very valuable. I mean, many of us work 8 hours a day, and so it's extremely important to not have the work become more important than the happiness. Remember, work again is a tool. It's a way to happiness. So keeping that in mind, keeping in mind that happiness is our goal as we're working, will help us to, yeah, you know, sometimes we have to do a good job to keep our jobs, to work, and you know, there's a certain pride in doing things well. But we always have to balance it with our real desire to feel happy and to stay focused on it. One thing I think that goes along with this actually is that there's an expression that that goes that the enemy is the perfect of the good. A lot of times when we try to do things too well, that's not good. You know, it really isn't. You know, if we're trying to be good people, trying to be perfectionistic is not good. You know, that's sometimes a subtle lesson that that is good to learn. So I think we should, in terms of like activities, also veer away from kinds of activities that that are for other goals, like making money, obtaining power, prestige. Not that these things aren't valuable or sometimes helpful, but if our activities are geared toward these other kinds of goals or desires, then we will be distracted from our happiness. Okay. Sometimes our leisure activities, ironically, very ironically, can distract us from happiness. For example, television. I think television is a good example because I think when we're very selective, when we choose what we watch and how much time we spend watching it, television can be a wonderful tool. You know, it can teach us, it can entertain us, It can keep us company. I mean, television is great, but a lot of times we overindulge in TV, and we're not so careful to in our watching. And like, what happens is studies have found that generally for most of us, it gets to a point where when we watch too much TV, we'll actually feel more depressed after watching it than when we began. So, I mean, I think that's something a lot of people can relate to, like especially with cable, and a lot of people just constantly surf, never staying on one program. So yeah, with TV can be a great distraction. I think for a lot of us who are addicted to it, it's something that's very easy, doesn't require much effort, and it's entertaining and all. And we a lot of times don't realize how much of a distraction it can be to our happiness, because like sometimes when we're not watching TV, we can engage in more activities that are more active, that call on us to take part in life more rather than simply being a viewer of life. And again, TV can be good in certain ways. For many people who work all day, it's nice to be entertained at night. A lot of TV is good. There's a lot of drama that's good, a lot of music. But we really have to keep it in perspective, because I guess like many things, if we overindulge, it can really shift the focus from pleasure to discomfort. I think one interesting distraction to our happiness is that we're often ignorant of what makes us happy. Like most of us think that having a lot more money will make us happier. But 40 years of research has pretty much demonstrated that after 6 months or a year of having more money, we'll generally return to the same basic level of happiness, because having more money doesn't sustain increased happiness. It's the same with success, prestige, power, education. A lot of things that we seek, just aren't effective at happiness. So the more we know what tends to make us happy and what doesn't, and not just personally, but taking advantage of the science. I mean, scientists have studied this for 40 years, and it's just wise to take advantage of what we've learned, because I mean, this learning has come about through countless interviews with countless people, and it generally applies to most of us. So we should learn what makes us happy in order to do more of it, so that we're not distracted by pursuing activities that will either not make us happier or diminish our level of happiness. Another distraction to our happiness that's very related to our social life is comparisons. A lot of times we'll make comparisons with other people. Does the person have more money than I do? Is the person more powerful? Does the person have a better personality? Does the person have better qualities? We just have a lot of, does the person, I don't know, there are a lot of different kinds of comparisons we make, and we tend to compete with each other sometimes in those ways. And, well, the one thing is, like, research has demonstrated that happy people who know how to be happy, will choose their comparisons wisely. In other words, I think sometimes there's an expression that says comparisons are odious, and I think that's very true. I think it's probably best not to compare, but if we're going to compare, the studies show that we should compare downward. We should compare ourselves to people who have less money and less of a personality, fewer friends, fewer success, less of whatever it is, and that way we can appreciate our blessings. Again, it's probably wise not to compare ourselves with others, but choosing our comparisons wisely will help us to become happier. Again, a lot of times we will focus on right and wrong. Right and wrong is important to many of us. Goodness is important to us, and ironically, that's a great distractor to happiness, because a lot of times we're focusing so much on trying to be good, on trying to do the right thing, on trying to be perfect. We're focusing on the problems and how we can make them better, that we fail to realize that the point is happiness. And also, it's the idea is that happiness is the greatest good. So So to the extent that that we become much happier, we're doing something very good. A lot of times our philosophy of life will prevent us from feeling as much happiness. It'll be a distractor. You know, if our philosophy of life tells us that that pleasure is wrong, that we're not, you know, born for happiness, that we're here to work or something like that. And, you know, sometimes some of us have that kind of philosophy. It's gonna distract us from being happiness. You know, we shouldn't feel guilty about our happiness. It's something it's our most precious gift from God. Okay, well, all right, that's all we have time for tonight. Thanks for watching. In the future, we'll explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy life. This is George Ortega saying, be good, think well, feel very happy, and I hope you join me again next week here on The Happiness Show.
Happiness is powerful. It's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.